Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got Ramona Gailey, and she is a mindset coach, and she dubs herself as what's interesting as the vibrational mentor. And she helps spiritual overthinkers find their purpose and leverage their personal assets into success and purpose. It's going to be a really fascinating conversation around mindset, and I'm really happy to have her on the show. Ramona, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Lou. I appreciate it. I'm very glad to be here and to spend some time with you and your audience. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love this podcast because we're really informal, and all my guests call me Chris, and so I'm
Okay,
happy to have you on.
great. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, so introduce yourself and how'd you get started? And I'm really excited to dive into the conversation.
Absolutely. So I call myself a vibrational mentor because I started learning about 10 years ago. I didn't have any spiritual paradigm. I didn't believe in anything. I didn't not believe in anything, but I just didn't have any spiritual belief systems. And my partner, my beloved partner of 24 years, passed away in my arms. And there was a come to Jesus moment, as a lot of people would call it. And only I didn't come to Jesus. I came to law of attraction as taught by Abraham Hicks. And so that's when I really started getting into this. And everything they teach and everything that I teach now is vibrational. We teach that everything is vibrational. Our emotions are
Huh.
vibration. Everything in the whole universe has a vibration, and that we're interacting on a vibrational level. So I started learning all of that. And the more I learned it, the more I realized I really wanted to teach it. And then I eventually started to get into it really seriously. So that's where the vibrational mentor comes in. I made that title up and I love it. And so I'm a mentor rather than a teacher. For example, I do a lot by role modeling and guiding rather than actual like lecturing. And it's all about vibration. So vibrational mentor.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so let's talking about what's I've been really delving into the law of attraction and just manifesting and intention setting and boundary setting, which really it's really interesting. I've also been working a lot on letting go. So talk about how these things play out in creating the optimal vibe. They call it vibe or vibration, and especially in this area, we're just letting go and just releasing past guilt, shame, trauma, all of that.
Yeah, and I really love how all that ties in with business. I know you've got a lot of entrepreneurials and high muckety muck corporate types, and I really love knowing that. Like with my clients, I see two different kinds of clients. One that comes in who has done really well financially, just really successful in business, in profession, and they seem to either really love what they did, what they've been doing up till now, and now they're starting to move away from that. They're starting to see other things in life. Maybe they've been a little narrow focused, or maybe they've gone through whatever they were expecting. They achieved what they want to, and now they're like, "What next?" Or they really didn't like what they chose early on, but they've been very successful with it financially. And so there's a level of what I call authenticity. And I like to just really preface this by saying I don't mean honesty. You can be very honest and yet not be authentic to yourself. And to me, that's where the trigger point is, where the catalyst is, the turning point. When we start really being true to ourselves, now we can be abundant on a completely new level. It transcends everything that we've done before. And in our authenticity, we can easily do sales calls, we can do video presentations, we can do public speaking, we can basically, it's the ability to stand and be seen for who we really are, like deep down inside, and we know it and we trust it. And so letting go of all of our limiting beliefs, that's it, man, because our limiting beliefs are not us. We don't have any limiting beliefs, the true us. And so when we can stand and say, I am who I am right here, right now, and I'm comfortable with you seeing me for who I am, I can just be myself. And now I can let anything in that I want because I trust myself. I trust my desires. I trust you. I trust the process. I trust the universe. There's this whole lot of trust that starts to come into play. Now I can start really letting in some true abundance. So that's what I like about that.
Interesting. I think the time when I really saw this in action was just like when a lot of my friends and so forth, they were running around in scattered directions. And I was like, I was tempted to actually go their direction. And I was just like, just really focused on one single particular task to the exclusion of everything else, which I mean, I do regret a little bit. But it's really interesting because there's a quote that's like when you empty something out, there's something that fills it in. It's when you let go of that, new stuff starts to, and it's very counterintuitive. It's you think you have to grasp onto your past hurts and this he or she did this to me and all this, and it's actually holding you back, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I love there's a famous I don't remember who said it, but a famous quote that said, Being angry with somebody else, refusing to forgive them is like drinking poison and expecting them to get hurt by it." So that all those low vibration feelings, they just hurt us. They really don't affect anybody but us. They affect our loved ones because, they don't like to be around us anymore. But yeah, so when we let go of all that stuff, we soar. We get happy, we get abundant, we get unconditional love back into our lives. And that's really what we want. It doesn't really matter about the Mercedes so much. It's how you feel driving the Mercedes around. So
yes.
we focus a lot on getting that feeling so that the Mercedes and more can come to us very easily because we're just a good match now.
Which kind of brings me to my next question is we talked about letting go, which is one of the hardest. The other type of work is intention setting work and boundary work. How did these factor and play into your work with clients?
Really great question. Again, we come back to authenticity, the ability to set boundaries for yourself. First of all, you have to know who you are and what your boundaries are and what you want. And then you can feel into when you're being authentic in yourself, you can actually feel when somebody else is getting up close to your boundary. Like you don't have to keep a recipe card or issue a set of rules or say, you can do this, but you can't do that, or I prefer this and don't do that. You can just say, oh, I feel really great right now. Wait a minute, there's something coming in. Oh, that doesn't feel good. Nope, that's not for me. It doesn't have to be personal, it doesn't have to be conflict, it doesn't certainly have to be like violence or anything like that. It just becomes so natural that you end up wondering, "Why didn't I do this before?" Because it's just so easy and it's so loving. You can be very gentle about defending your boundaries and absolutely ask for what you want without coming off too pushy or too arrogant or too entitled or any of the stuff that we worry about. You can stop worrying about everything once you're just being yourself because yourself is pure love. It's pure goodness. You don't maybe know it yet, but that's a lot what I do with my clients is helping them to really feel the perfection, the goodness, the love that they are made of. And then they can just relax and be themselves and get everything they want.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because when I started to do this work, it was you can actually start to when you start to really apply it, you can actually start to feel the energy shift. And when that energy shift is what's detracting from you or it's you should say no. And once you start to exercise it and when you release, I used to attract like weird people into my just weird
Mm.
situations and just very and then once you start to do that, you these bad situation they don't they avoid you now. It's really it's energetically very interesting. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I find that too. And the mix is where the confusion is. So, like, when you get really clear, then, like you said, anything that's unwanted just really doesn't tend to show up. It's only when we're in the mix, like when we first start our spiritual journey. And this is, I get a lot of clients that are right in this spot, right? I've made all these growths and expansion, and I've got all this money coming in now, or I've got this beautiful relationship, or whatever it is that was my first, that's going really well. But I'm still drawing like crappy clients, for example, or I'm still getting the dregs of the earth trying to ask me out, or whatever that topic is where you still have a mix of vibration. In other words, you've got a high vibration. I love myself. I feel really good. I know what I want. But you've also got a low vibration. I'm not sure I deserve it. My mother always told me such and such. I failed first grade. Whatever the thing is, it's a mix. And that's when we keep getting results that confuse us because we're focused on the higher vibe and we're not really as aware of the lower vibe, which is a great place to be, but it does show up in what we're attracting. So that's what we work through is how to release that mix, how to get everything start to coming up so that it's a more pure vibration, more consistently high, and then everything great starts to flow in.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's like another corollary is I used to income wise, I used to do these. They were just very tedious and just people just very draining. And then once I started to let that go and focus on actually valuable, what are my gifts and strengths and talents and leverage that. And then, you think you letting go of the other types of income would, you would be struggling, but it's actually opened up more to like the universe pouring into you. The
Yeah,
other
I've really
Go ahead.
felt that sorry, yeah, I've really felt that to be I've really seen that to be the case when you let go of the old that no longer serves, and it maybe never did serve you, but you were able to pull it off. We know we're able to, like, kind of nose to the grindstone it a little bit when we're younger, like, everything's new and everything's fresh, we can be excited about something that doesn't really actually excite us. But as soon as that excitement starts to disappear, we're stuck unless we can make that transition into doing more of what we love, and then it just really flows in.
Yeah. The other thing I get, or it is interesting to me, is intuition, spirit guides. What role do they play? How do they influence your work as a vibrational mentor? And what's the difference between intuition and spirit guides? Talk about that.
Yeah, great question. So about 5 years ago, so I started this whole journey that I'm on now about 10 years ago. About 5 years ago, I realized that I was gonna start following in Esther Hicks' footsteps. She's Abraham Hicks. And I started receiving my own spirit guides, my inner being, however you wanna say that, and they call themselves Oprah, not Oprah Winfrey, no H on the end, just Oprah. And so I have come to understand that Oprah is basically the name that they've given themselves for my inner being, and it's basically my connection to source. And so what my clients do is come in, they haven't found their Oprah yet. And everybody's got to, not everybody names it, not everybody does it for somebody else. Most people don't. But we all have access to that guidance, to that what you're calling intuition. So to me, they're the same thing. Intuition is my body's like like resonance with my guidance. It's, "Oh, that feels really good. I feel it in my gut." That's what we call our intuition. That's our guidance from source. Source comes through our body. And so if we're just sitting around thinking about it, "Oh, I think this and I think that," then we're not really getting the full benefit of our actual guidance, which is why we can say, "I'm not sure whether I should buy this house or not. I've got an opportunity to start a new business, but I'm not sure if I should. I think I should. I've got a pros and cons list. I'm trying to decide, like in this kind of very mental way. But if we just feel into our gut knows everything because it's connected to source, it's connected to all that is, it's got the big picture that we don't have. We're like down in the valley toiling away. There's somebody up on the mountaintop who can see all the way around 360 and they're going, go left, go right. And so we feel that direction in our body. That's why I teach the primary thing I teach is where do you feel that in your body? Get to the point where you can feel it, not just think about it. That's your intuition. That's your guidance. That's everything you need. Everything.
Yeah. In a follow-up corollary, which is interesting, is we have more neurons in our gut, and that's how kind of source and intuition talk. That's like when you get a gut feeling.
Yes.
The a lot of the audience on this podcast can be very logical because they're trained, like they're lawyers and doctors and dentists. They're like, what are the facts? What are the data? This intuition, this will they can still access intuition, right? It's like a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I'm not psychic or I'm not intuitive, so I have to go on the facts and the data." How do you respond to that?
So anybody who's really enjoying what they're doing and they're getting the results they want, they're doing something right. And they may think, oh, all I'm doing is analyzing and strategizing and being logical. But if they weren't doing what they wanted to do, they wouldn't feel good and they wouldn't be getting good results.
Oh,
They'd be alcoholics, or they'd be beating up on their wives, or they'd be failing miserably over and over again. The serial entrepreneur that keeps starting a new business, starting a new business, starting a new business, and they never succeed. So when you're getting the results you want and you feel good and your body is doing well, then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about where it's coming from or how you're doing it. It reminds me of that guy who first postulated that ulcers came from a bacteria in the gut rather than stress and spicy food. He was practically drummed out of the business. He was like poo-pooed, right? Like he was practically demonized. Then he turned out to be right. Everything that's important to us is actually going on in our gut. But if we feel it more logically, it seems like this and this. And yeah, that feels right. You might not call that feeling, you might call it logic. But if it's working for you, You're doing it through your gut, whether you know it or not. You don't have to know it. You don't have to label it, but just keep doing it. But if it's not working, get out of your head, get back into your body, into your breath, as I talk a lot. Get into your breath, get into your heart, and that's where your knowledge is. So it really just depends on what results you're getting and how it feels.
Yeah. The other question I have for you is how is it you talked about failing over and beating your head on just against as a brick wall versus failing on your path. How do you distinguish? Because I've been there beating my head against the wall, just nothing and just struggling. And then there's actually failure on the way. So how do you help people reconcile that are listening?
I help my clients practice on small things. We talk about this a lot. Practice on small, easy topics. When you get to the end of a corridor and you know where you're going and you could go either left or right, stop and feel into your gut. Do I want to go left or do I want to go right? Let your body say, okay, to the right. You'll feel it start to pull one way or the other. Don't question it. Just go that way. And if you do that, do I want to brush my hair today, now, or later? When do I want to take my shower? What do I want for dinner? Where to go for out to eat, honey? All these easy questions, decisions that we make all day long. When you start saying, okay, I'm going to practice, this is not a big topic. There's no heavy, horrible, dire consequences or anything. It's just easy. When you practice on the easy stuff, it's just like any other skill. When that big decision comes along, you're going to be able to feel into it and trust to just go with it. Now, that doesn't mean if somebody says, do you want to invest in this thing? And you say yes, and then blindly don't do your due diligence. I'm just saying each step of the way, the right here, right now, each step of the way, there's a feeling to it. And as you practice following that feeling, you'll find yourself just following almost like this magical path through your life, and it'll just lead you right to where you want to go over and over again. You won't be able to deny that it has changed from the previous approach.
Mm. It's interesting because there's been times in my life, like I can count like on my hand. There's been times when it's clear, it's do this. And there's times when I've been at a crossroads and I could never decide. And there's times when it's do this. And then I would say 99% of the time, I'm at a crossroads and ask for guidance and it's just silent. And
Yeah.
it's thanks like when it's like,
Thanks for nothing, huh?
thanks for asking. And then it's like, there's nothing. And it's so
Yeah.
what is that? What is going on there?
Here's the exciting part about that. If you can't feel your guidance in any given moment, and let's say it's time to make a decision and you haven't got any guidance, or let's say you're just frustrated with, I'm done with this decision. I'm just going to make, I would say choose one or the other, and it doesn't matter.
Mm,
It doesn't matter. Yes or no. It seems like it would matter, right? Yes or no. There's a two opposites. One should be right. And I say it doesn't matter because choose one and then line up with it. Get into alignment, like literally say, okay, I've chosen no for whatever reason, right? I could have said yes. I could have said no. I chose no. Now what? And what feels good in this moment now that I've made that decision? You might find that your body goes, No, we wanted you to say yes. Oh, I'm so disappointed. You can have this visceral, oh, okay. Then I say yes. So there's your decision, right? And let's
yeah.
say I say yes and I could have said no. Now I'm yes. And now my body's starting to say, oh God, we're uncomfortable doing this. Oh, we don't know what the first step, this feels uncomfortable. Okay. Then I go, now I've got my answer. So just choose one. And let's say you choose yes. And you don't get any more clear. It's yes. Okay, great. I'm going to put myself 100% behind this yes decision and see where it goes. Not blindly, not forever, just right here, right now. I'm going to take the next step. Let's say the next step is call somebody, right? The next step is put down a down deposit or make an airplane reservation. I do each one of those steps. And as long as my body feels good with that, then I'm on my path. It doesn't have to be the clouds parting and the angels singing. It can just be as easy as, yeah, that feels good. I'm going to do it. But just choose one because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because along those same lines, it's when those forks in the road and then there was nothing. And based on that, is you make a decision and then it turns out that that decision ended in failure. And it's, oh, well, what would have happened if I took this decision? And it's just sometimes there's a clear path, and then others there's allows you to grow, and there's something that you're supposed to learn from that experience. That's how I reconcile it. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you think that you made the wrong decision, you can really reframe that very quickly. I would recommend reframe that to say, I either succeed, which means I get exactly what I thought I wanted, which I thought I wanted, right? Or I get something else. So either that's something else is something frequently even better than what I thought I wanted if I just let it play itself out. Or I learned this really great lesson. I got information, I got clarity on what I don't want. We don't really know what we want until we know what we don't want. A baby who's full and you try to stick the bottle in his mouth, he's going to be no. But a baby who's hungry knows exactly what he wants, he or she, right?
yeah,
So by knowing what you don't want, the hunger, now you know what you do want, which is the bottle or the food, whatever it is. We're the same way. We don't ever change. We come into this situation, this physical plane, knowing how our body feels, and we can forget it. We can be cultured, socialized out of it, but we can always come back to it because it's in us. We're going to remember it. We don't have to learn it. We can just remember it, and our body knows. Until you know what you don't want, you don't really know what you do want. So every step along the way, even if it looks like a failure to somebody else, you can just say, I'm on my way. I'm learning. I'm getting there. I'm figuring out what I want. I'm getting that clarity and that authenticity that's so important.
yeah. I know we have around 3 minutes. One thing that's happened recently is sometimes I'll be doing work or working out or driving, and all of a sudden this person from the past pops into your head. Oh, I wonder what happened to this person, and then you find out there's something either. And then, but then what's interesting is once you start to think, "Oh, okay, this person, then, oh, I wonder what happened to these people during these times." Well, what is that? What is that? Is that the universe hopping in, or is that kind of like foresight? Is that intuition? Is that prophecy? What is that?
It can be any of those and all of those. One time I was waiting outside. My partner had gone in to visit with her mom, and I was waiting outside in the parking lot, and I got this sudden, just real strong sense of my next door neighbor who was in the middle of passing. She had passed just that moment. We compared our timeline to her family who was with her at the time. That was right when she passed. She came by and visited me as on her way out or up or however you want to call that. So
Yeah.
that was a very clear example of a what we'd call maybe a visitation or something. But if somebody pops into my head, I'll frequently pick up the phone and call them right then because there's something going on. But I don't know what it is. I don't and maybe they just passed or maybe they just had a bad car accident, but maybe they were just thinking of me too.
Mm.
It's all those synchronicities. I find that the less I question it and the more I just respond to it, then the more it happens in a happy, easy way, and it just eases my way through life because we're connected to everything. We think we're separate, but we're connected to everything. You cannot break that connection, but you can take advantage of it and you can enjoy it. So that's my answer to that. Just go with it.
Interesting. How can people find out more about you, and if they wanted to improve their mindset based on this spiritual high vibration methodology, how can they do that?
Absolutely. They can go to my website. It's probably the easiest way, ramonagailey.com. And I tell you, just for your audience members, okay, if they go under my homepage, my ramonagailey.com, go all the way to the bottom, there's a little button there that says private. Click on that. It's a secret, right? You just click on it. It'll take you to my private podcast series,
Uh-huh.
and they can it's set up as a playlist on YouTube, so they can just listen to me answer just various people. Lay people have come in and asked me questions, and we have these really great conversations about everything mindset. And once they've done that, if they want to come on and be the host and ask me some questions, they can bring their own topics. We have a lot of fun, and it's a lot of unusual perspectives on things that like neurodiverse is an example, right? So people are all up in arms about that, or they feel very strongly about it, or authenticity, or clarity, imposter syndrome, self sabotage, all these different questions that we discuss in a very lighthearted fashion. And anyway, my website's a great place to get started. Take advantage of the podcast. It's private just for your audience. And you can also sign up for a free discovery call with me. You can take a look at some of the products or the services that I offer and just gather information. And you can find all my social media stuff there too, all the links.
Yeah, I love that. And for all the audience, all of Ramona's resources will be in the links and show notes, and be sure to give her socials a like and follow. And I really got a lot out of this, and the audience did too. Really interesting topics.
Thank you, Chris. Well, I've really enjoyed visiting with you. Thank you so much for having me.